Let's take a look at this SBA pre-qualified premium tinned fish subscription box, making $192,000 a year in profit and listed for sale at an asking price of $770,000, which works out to be basically a 4x valuation multiple. I'm going to go through this business listing here, unpack some of the key details, things I like about it, don't like, or might want to know more about if I were seriously considering this business, and ultimately share with you my quick take on the business's valuation. Now, before I jump into it here, let me just share this with you. This is the Acumen Wire newsletter I run, where I send out online businesses that were recently listed for sale with a focus on established, profitable, and time-tested businesses that I personally would consider acquiring. I've started, acquired, and also sold a handful of businesses, both online businesses and also offline businesses as well. I'll put a link below to acumenwire.com so you can head on over there and get signed up if you're interested. Now, let's go back to the listing here that we're going to be taking a look at. First thing I have to say is the business, the niche, tinned fish subscription box. That is something I would have never thought of, and I have never seen before. I've seen a lot of subscription box style businesses come up over the years, ones that have been very successful. Some of them have been listed for sale. I've looked at them. I kind of like the model because who doesn't like monthly recurring revenue, right? Who doesn't like that? And subscriber growth, who doesn't like that either, right? These are things that these businesses have that make them very desirable. That said, I've, again, never seen one in the tinned fish box. So this one is just really, really interesting here. It's got the 58,000 MRR, 1 million in trailing 12 months revenue, 31% subscriber growth. It's doing $192,000 in income on $1 million a year in revenue. So that is just shy of a 20% margin. I'm going to go through here and pick out some of the key details, and then we'll circle back and talk about them. Let me see if I can get my annotation tool up. Set it to that purple color. I find that kind of works good on all pages. And we'll undo that so I don't have that line. Okay. It is, well, SBA pre-qualified, which I think we knew from the headline. We'll talk about that in a second. It was founded in 2020, and it delivers a curated monthly box to paying members. Each box includes 3 premium tinned seafood selections sourced from around the world, a complimentary snack or condiment, and a printed card with cannery stories and recipes. I'm just going to kind of note this because I want to come back to what they do here. That sounds, there's something about that that really jumps out at me. Customers do not browse a catalog or build a cart. They join a club. That distinction matters. The subscription model produces predictable recurring revenue, a strong cash flow, multi-month annual plans, collect revenue up front. Memberships average $163 per order. Gift memberships average $248. Gross margins exceed 50%, has scaled from $106K in revenue in 2022 to over $1 million in trailing 12 months. SDE growth of 66%. It's growing. We get that. The operation is built to transfer. Full-time operations manager handles all fulfillment through a third-party logistics provider. Wow, I mean, they're just dropping bombs in here that are so lovable. Dedicated marketing lead runs all paid acquisition on Meta and Google over 5 years. The seller has built a content library of 60 months of original recipes and cannery stories that come with the sale, documented SOPs. Growth opportunities are concrete. Conversion rate optimization requires no new spend. Only better landing pages on existing traffic. Corporate gifting is entirely undeveloped despite 45% of subscriptions being sold as gifts. Email automation and affiliate partnerships and organic social remain largely untouched. The trademarked brand ranks first organically for targeted keywords and holds a 5.0 rating across more than 300 Google reviews, with 1,300 active renewing subscribers. All right, there is a lot to like about this business. I didn't realize there was so much to like about this business until I was just skimming it because I had not gone any further than, what is basically the above the fold content here and the basic details and seeing what niche it was in. So let's go back and talk about all this stuff. There's a lot to unpack here. SBA pre-qualified. First thing, there's no such thing as SBA pre-qualified. There's basically just not SBA disqualified, which would be a business that is not SBA eligible. Commonly with online businesses, that is because they don't have 3 years of tax returns, or they are in an industry that is just not SBA acceptable, like gambling, debt. What else would not be SBA acceptable? Tobacco, adult products or content, stuff like that. All right, so it's not SBA disqualified for any reason, therefore it is SBA pre-qualified, but that doesn't mean that anybody at the SBA has actually looked at this deal. Next up, it was founded in 2020, so it is a 6-year-old business. My gosh, I have to say 2020 feels like it was yesterday when all the COVID stuff started rolling around, but that was 6 years ago. So it is, it's time tested. It's older than most online businesses that come up for sale. Now, this is really interesting here because they describe everything that comes with a subscription. So the products are sourced from around the world. It comes with a complimentary snack or condiment in addition to the seafood selection, I believe, and a printed card with cannery stories and recipes. So to me, that was reading like they've got a really valuable product offering here. And they're not just sending off snack or condiment kind of one-off items. Seems like they're building a pretty robust value-added product that they're delivering. And as we scroll down the page, it says new club memberships average over 163 per order and gift memberships at 248. Gross margins exceed 50%. So healthy healthy gross margin on these orders, but these numbers seemed a little low to me actually for what they're selling. Is that monthly, I'm wondering, right? Is it $163 to get a monthly delivery, or is that annually? Because if that's annually, it seems really, really low. That works out to like, what, $15 per month? That seems too low. Maybe it's a quarter. I don't really know. I'd certainly want to look into that, but nonetheless, what they're doing is working because they're getting a 50% gross margin on it. Okay. The business is growing. The numbers are nice. But at the same time, they're not really hockey stick growth, which can make me leery. So I think the numbers here are robust and sustainable. Down here, it's talking about the operation is built to transfer. They've got a full-time operations manager in place, which handles all fulfillment through a third-party logistics provider. So that means they're not holding any inventory, and they've got a dedicated marketing lead that runs all paid customer acquisition. So yeah, I would say that considering this, the seller is relatively hands-off. They've got documented SOPs. And then growth opportunities. Now, growth opportunities always make me skeptical because A, if these are opportunities, why doesn't the seller just do them and take advantage of them? Number one, and sometimes they just don't feel like it, right? They've got the business to where they've wanted it to be. They're thinking about a cash out exit. And they're envisioning themselves taking 1 year off and living on the beach for a while or something like that. Or, that's what makes me skeptical, they have tried these and dabbled in them, but found that there's really no easy win. So as a buyer, I'd always want to kind of diligence that out and really flesh out, hey, has any of this stuff actually been tried, and how much do I think I could move the needle with it? And then it says this trademark brand ranks first organically for targeted keywords and holds a 5.0 rating across more than 500 Google reviews. I like that it's been trademarked, but I like even more that it has a 5-star rating across more than 300 Google reviews, and I like the active renewing subscribers. To me, that is telling of a good business. So there's a lot to like here. I like what's going on here. What I'd really want to flesh out if I were to get into this business is, number one, how do they find these suppliers for the tins? Right? Like, where do these things actually come from? How hard is it to find these suppliers? And is this operations manager, himself or herself Are they going out and finding the suppliers, or is this something the seller is doing? And with that, what is the seller actually doing in this business? What does the seller need to do? Because they're always going to say something that the seller does, right? They're going to tell you what the seller of this business does and how much work is involved, but it's ultimately up to you as the buyer to flesh out, all right, what really needs to happen in this business and who's doing it. And if we don't have a person like this operations manager to be doing it, that means that the seller is doing it. Either they have to be doing it or they should be doing it. So I'd certainly, want to flesh that stuff out. I think it's important to understand how these products are sourced and where they're coming from, and subsequently what this operations manager ultimately does. I think that is very, very important. Does this operations manager find the products and put together the bundles? Right? That would be ideal, but something you'd want to know. It's something you'd want to know because it seems like it's relatively difficult to kind of put together, right? It seems like there's a lot of thought that goes into these products and the packages that they are delivering every single month. With that, I'd also want to know what they're doing for marketing and come up with my own plan for it, right? How can the marketing be improved on? Is there anything that could be improved on? And also, how documented are the SOPs and how closely does the operations manager follow them? Are these just kind of SOPs that are thrown together but not actually used, or are they actually used? So if I'm diligencing this business, I'd kind of want to look into that and be like, okay, here's a scenario that happens. Maybe get into their email and see what happens and then say, based on this email, can I jump into SOPs and figure out what I need to do? Okay, and I'd also want to know, how many customer inquiries they get. This isn't a DIY kind of product or an educational type of product, so I'd guess that, there's really no technical inquiries that come with it. It's probably just kind of billing stuff. Hey, I want to cancel my subscription, or maybe I didn't get my subscription or something like that. Yeah, and then with that, of course, I'd want to understand the tech stack, things like that. But ultimately, I think most importantly is figuring out how these things are sourced, how the bundles are built, and who builds them. Hopefully, this operations manager here is building them. On that note, what is my take on the business's valuation? Well, they've got monthly recurring revenue. They're on a growth path. They've got a decent margin here. They've got a good gross margin, considering the business seems to have a robust operational infrastructure in it with this operations manager and this third-party logistics provider. I think that the margin at 19% there is relatively healthy, and that also accounts for some paid advertising spend. I think that this business, and also considering the fact that the product bundled here is not something that can be easily drop shipped or put together, right? Like, I don't know of any spin up a tinned seafood bundle provider, right? I don't know of a white label provider for this product at all. I don't think they exist. Considering that the product, really requires some curation and kind of supply chain build out here. Certainly it needs to get to the 3PL. The products need to be sourced, etc. I think that the valuation multiple here at a 4x is very fair. If I got into it and I realized that the seller was putting a lot of things together himself, that would maybe make me a little leery. If I got into it and I realized that, I don't really know. I was going to say that, that all of the sales are really concentrated in one channel, but they're talking a lot about diversified channels here indirectly. They're saying they've got Google and Facebook ads. I think they said that in here. Where's that part? Yeah. Meta and Google paid acquisition, and then they've got organic, right? So it seems like they're pretty diversified in sales channels, which is pretty good. I don't see that being a risk. Overall, it seems like based on these details that the business is pretty robust and substantially supporting this 4x business valuation. I think really the only risk would be that maybe the seller himself owns a seafood producer or something like that, right? And The seller himself is fundamentally the producer of the goods, but I'm not getting that vibe because they talk about the 3PL. If that were the case, then the seller would probably just be shipping them right from, wherever they're located, right? They've already got the production facilities. They'd ship them right out of there. They wouldn't have that 3PL. So overall, this seems like a very, very robust business and one that I would consider, or you should consider, acquiring if you are looking to acquire an established, profitable, and time-tested business. I don't see any AI risk here. I don't see much platform risk. Overall, I really like this business, and I think at a 4x valuation, it is fairly valued. On that note, guys, what is your take? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's fairly valued at a 4x, or are you seeing something that I'm missing? I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful or insightful, you know the drill. Smash that like button to help me out in the YouTube algorithm. I'm calling it a wrap and signing off on that note.